Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I am your host, Preston Proctor. Yeah, we got a game tonight against Washington. Diversion time. I did the intro. Yeah, well, let's just talk about other stuff. Yeah. I mean, I'll get to it later. But I thought I'd start off by commenting on the game Monday night against Los Angeles. Los Angeles looked really crisp. They kind of played the way that for a lot of the game that you really want to see every team play at, or your team play at. You know, where the passes are crisp, the players have jump. They're in front of the play. They're getting the puck to the people that are in positions to make plays, and saw a little bit of that from Nashville, but not enough. Ergo, the loss. So I just wanted to comment on that first. I don't remember why, but I thought I guess it was just so prescient when I was considering this podcast yesterday, thinking about how I was going to put today's podcast together, that I just thought that was interesting to see the difference in how the two teams play. And with tonight's game and tomorrow night's game, playing tonight, Capitals tomorrow night, Florida, as the announcers, or as the we were at the LA game, and the post game show mentioned. Both tonight's opponent and last night's opponent have been resting since the weekend, so they've had plenty of time to get their thoughts around how they're going to play the Predators. And meanwhile, the Predators had to play Monday night, tonight, and tomorrow night. So Florida is really going to be in a good position, and they're like I don't know. I don't think got the top record in the team in the league. That's Winnipeg. Winnipeg is 12-1, so they're definitely on top in the league. But Florida is okay. So they've lost 3 times. They got overtime loss. It's definitely a team that seems to be beating the teams they need to be beating. Obviously they've got 4 losses, so they didn't beat everybody, but they're 9-3-1. Anyhow, but that'll be tomorrow's summary. It's just bad luck for the Predators to be playing the way they are and run into Washington tonight and Florida tomorrow. Hopefully on the road, even. They've got to travel, so that much more of an issue. I think the announcer said that maybe going on the road would help. Maybe it will help. Maybe they've got some sort of thing against playing at home right now. They've been at home so much. I don't know much about that. That's not really my area of expertise. Ergo, try not to say so much. But anyhow. So tonight. Tonight, the Predators are on the road to take on the Washington Capitals. The Capitals are 8-3-0, 6-1-0 at home. That's got to be one of the best records in the league at playing at home, 6-1, 6-1-0. The Capitals are 4th in the Metropolitan Division with 16 points. They're 1 point behind the New York Rangers. They lost their home and season opener, the first game of the season, to New Jersey. Then they won 5 in a row, lost 1, won 3, and then lost their last game at Carolina. Another team playing well. So, given their what they're looking like right now is they lose one, win a bunch, lose one, win a bunch. The fact they just lost one does not spell good news for the Nashville Predators playing them tonight. The Capitals are 6-3 against the Eastern Conference and 2-0 against the West, 1-0 in the Central. 2-0 in the West, 1 in the Central. The Capitals, interestingly enough, have been alternating goalies each game, which is a little weird, but hey, that's how they want to do it. If that maintains, Thompson will be in goal tonight. Again, Charlie Lindgren, the other goaltender, is 3-3. Logan Thompson is 5-0. It's weird, but 3 losses and they all wind up in one column. The one named Charlie Lindgren. So we get Logan Thompson tonight, most likely. A few notable roster changes from last year. Not with the team. Right wing Nicholas Aube-Kubel, unrestricted free agent signed by Buffalo. Max Pacioretty. I'm not going to try that again. Unrestricted free agent signed by Toronto after a pro tryout. Left wing Beck Melenstein traded to Buffalo for a second-round 2024 draft pick. So those are 3 forwards not on the team that were around last year. Notables that are on the team, here's this guy, center Pierre-Luc Dubois. Pierre-Luc Dubois was involved in a trade with L.A. for Darcy Kemper. Right wing Brandon Duhaime, unrestricted free agent from Colorado. Left wing Andrew Mangiapane. Well, he's probably not Italian. So probably like LaRue. It's Mangiapane. I don't know. But anyway, this left wing Andrew was acquired through a trade with Calgary, and Washington gave them a second-round 2025 draft pick. Right wing Taylor Radish, unrestricted free agent from Chicago. Left wing Jakub Vrana, unrestricted free agent from St. Louis, was actually signed close to the beginning of the season on October 8th. Kind of notable when that happened. But those are new forwards, pretty nice little collection of forwards to add to your team. Notable defenseman, not with a team, not really notable, but like the name, Ethan Bear. Ethan Bear is playing for the AHL Hershey Bears. I always like to bring up the minor league team associated with these. So he could be called back up. Lucas Johansson is also with the AHL Hershey Bears. But yeah, you got to love Ethan Bears playing for the Bears. Got to love it. Nick Jensen was traded along with a third-round 2026 pick to Ottawa for defenseman Jakub Kakurin. Maybe that's right. And that Jakub is not listed with the team. So I'm assuming he's with Hershey as well, but I didn't check on that. Notable defensemen that are with the team, Matt Roy, unrestricted free agent from L.A., but he is on injured reserve. Oh, that's right. Jakub Kakurin is on injured reserve as well. So he's not with Hershey. He is on injured reserve. So the 2 defensemen, Jakub Kakurin and Matt Roy, are on injured reserve. Matt Roy, new unrestricted free agent, was with L.A. Goalies not with the team, Cam Talbot, the unrestricted free agent. Wait a minute, that's not right. I didn't edit that out. Cam Talbot was with L.A. That's what happens when I don't edit well. Sorry, that's not right. But a goalie new to the team, Logan Thompson, trading a trade with the Vegas Knights for a third-round 2024 and a third-round 2025 draft pick. So Logan Thompson, new goalie to the team, playing pretty well, and we'll probably see him tonight. Players to note, yesterday they recalled center Michael Scarbosa from the Hershey Bears. He may be suited up tonight, maybe not. We will see. Left wing Alex Ovechkin and center Connor McMichael lead the team in goals with 7. Not really a surprise that Ovechkin is leading the team in goals. He also leads the team in shots with 36. So we'll get to see him shoot a lot and hopefully, score, whatever. Center Dylan Strome leads the team in assists with 13 and points at 17. Right wing Brandon Duhaime leads the team in penalty minutes, 18. Right wing ex-King Nick Dowd leads the team in shooting percentage at 23%, which is okay. I mean, I like it. You know, when I started seeing the shooting percentages at 30 and 40%, I thought, well, there you go. But 4 goals on 17. And defenseman John Carlson leads the team in time on ice at almost 26 minutes. So I think Yossi's time is about the same. So we'll see Carlson on the ice about as much as we're used to seeing Yossi for the Preds. And then, leading the team with 7, that's not a lot. What is it, though? Forsberg has 6. So it's very similar, but obviously Washington is playing better than the Preds right now. Maybe they will tonight. Maybe they won't. I guess we will see tonight. Anyhow, tonight is the Capitals' 12th game of the year. Last year at this point, they were 6-4-2 after going 1-4 to start the season. Now, that sounds somewhat familiar, right? The Washington Capitals last year were 1-4 to start the season. The Preds starting this year at 0-5. They obviously righted their ship pretty quick. The Preds still on target to do that. The 12th game last season was a 4-2 win at New Jersey, so their 12th game of the year last year was also on the road. This year they are 8-3-0 overall. Tonight is also their 8th game at home. Last year in 8 games at home, they were 4-3-1, and their 8th game was a 4-3 loss to Florida in overtime. I like the sound of that. This year they are 6-1 at home, coming into the 8th game. Tonight's game is the first game of a 2-game homestand for them. They will play Pittsburgh on Friday. Next, they'll alternate an away game at St. Louis, a home game against Toronto, and then they have a 3-game road trip, Colorado, Vegas, and the Utah Hockey Club. The Nashville Predators are, after Monday night, 4-7-1. Haven't played on the road a lot this year, so they're 1-1-1, 1-1-1, 1-1-1, 1-1-1 on the road, 1-1-1 on the woad. They're 1-1-1 on the woad. The Preds are in 8th in the Central Division because there is not a 9th place. They are in 8th in the Central Division with 9 points. They are 2 points behind Chicago. Tonight's game is the first of a 2-game road trip. Tomorrow night, they get to go to Florida and play, was it Sunrise, Florida? Get to play in Sunrise, Florida tomorrow after playing tonight in Washington. And good luck with that travel. I always wonder, I guess it would be easy to know, like we were wondering that Monday night, whether the Kings, because the Kings had to play, I think they played last night in Minnesota, and the game gets over. It got started at 7, got over at 9:30 here. It's like by the time they, cool down, shower, whatever they do they just go back to the hotel or figure, go ahead, get to the hotel, sleep here, and then fly out to Minnesota in the morning, or do it the other way around. Would seem to make more sense to stay in Nashville and then go off. But I guess sometimes it depends, but yeah, it'd be interesting to know that. I'll have to figure that one out. But anyhow, yeah. So they'll be in Washington tonight. Then the game's at 7, so the game will be over about 9:30. And then So do they stay in Washington and fly into Florida tomorrow, or what? I mean, you figure they still have to have their. They need to have some sort of a routine. They need to have a morning skate and whatever. So maybe they do it in the afternoon. Anyhow. So tonight it's the first game of the road trip. They're in Washington. Tomorrow night they'll be in Florida. Tonight is the Preds' 13th game of the year. Last season, the Preds were 5-8 in their first 13 games. The 13th game was a 3-6 loss to the Jets. Speaking of Winnipeg, this year they are 4-7-1 overall. After the 13th game, they were 5-8. After 12, they're 4-7. So the records, after the first 5 games, these Preds made the playoffs last year. Well, you just got to make the playoffs, and hopefully you're playing well enough to move forward, right? So so the Preds are moving along. After that they're 4-2-1 after losing the first 5. So 4-2-1 is not too bad. Tonight is the Preds' 4th game on the road. Last season, they were 1-3 in their first 4 road games, 1-3. The 4th game was a loss, 2-5 to Vancouver. And so far this season, they're 1-1-1. So very, very similar. Players of note, forward Ozzy Weisblatt was signed to a 2-year, 2-way contract last Friday. Two-year, 2-way contract. I don't think you saw him in action, so I'm not expecting to see him in action. And as far as the stats, left wing Philip Forsberg leads the team in goals with 6 and points with 10. Forsberg and defenseman Roman Josi lead the team in shots with 53. 53, that's, both of them have 53. What was it? The most shots up above was 36 with Ovechkin. The same way with L.A. the other night. I wonder if the Preds are leading in shots taken. They got 2 guys, with 53 shots, which is, better than 50% more than the leading shooter on the last 2 teams we've faced. Center Ryan O'Reilly and Josi lead the team in assists with 6. Josi also leads the team in time on ice, also 26, just under 26 minutes. So Josi is all over the stat board. Leads the team tied to lead the team in shots, tied in assists, and leads the team in time on ice. Leading the team in shooting percentage is center Gustav Nyquist, now down to 28%, 4 goals on 14 shots. That's what I was saying in the game Monday night was he needs to shoot more. And defenseman Jeremy Lauzon leads the team in penalty minutes with 15. And that are the Preds. Now, the Preds on the road, they are 1-1-1 on the road this year. They lost their last road game in overtime to Tampa, 2-3. In that game, Tampa Bay scored 2 in the first, the second coming with 36 seconds left. The Preds evened the game up in the second with a Ryan O'Reilly power play goal, assisted by 2 of our new players, Stamkos and Marchessault. And the other goal came from Gustav Nyquist. With assists from Stamkos and Skjei. 2 new people on the team. So Stamkos got 2 assists and helping to tie the game in the second period. Nyquist got 1 goal on 2 shots in that game. The third period was scoreless, leading to the overtime period. Nick Paul scored the game winner at 3:22 in overtime, and that ended the game. So the Preds did not get the first goal of the game. They tied the first period, they tied 1 period, the third, won 1 period, and lost 2. When you lose 2, good things don't tend to happen. Last year, the Preds were 2-3 on the road when losing the first and winning the second. That'd be interesting to take a look at that stat. So they were 2-3 when they lose the first and win the second. One win went to a shootout, and 1 loss was in overtime. Interestingly enough, this scenario did not happen at home in Nashville, losing the first and winning the second. Interesting. It's interesting to see what type of scenarios happen on the road but don't happen at home, or vice versa. The first of the year was also against Tampa Bay, 5-3 in those last year, in those 5 games where they lost 1 and won the second. The first time that happened was against Tampa Bay. That took me a second to recognize what it was I'm trying to say. So this year they lost the first, won the second on the road, and last year the first time that happened was against Tampa Bay. Both they lost 5-3 in that game. Tampa Bay and Nashville each got 1 goal in the first and second period. So Tampa Bay scored the 1 goal in the first, Nashville scored 1 in the second. And then in the third period, it was a goal fest of 2-4. And in those circumstances, the Preds are 1-3-1 in the third period. That again doesn't compute. But it was written down. I feel like I wrote it down. If I have to say it. Even though I stare at it and I wonder, what was I trying to say here? That's why I try to make tell notes. Sorry. If you're confused, it's just part of being in the club. Also, I thought it was interesting in this particular situation that the Preds were tied after the second period. So I did a little bit of evaluation of what happened last year. When they were tied after 2 periods. And again, kind of interesting. It happened a fair number of times, 11 times on the road, 8 times at home. On the road, when they were tied after 2 periods, they were 7-4. At home, 4-4. So 500 ball when they're tied, and 7-4 on the road. So, a little bit better. And so overall, 11-8. So 19 times last season. They were tied after 2 periods. I think that doesn't seem like that would be that uncommon. 19 out of 82, so just under 25% of the games. So far, the 4-7-1 Predators are 4-8 in getting the first goal overall. I think the symmetry still stands there, although there doesn't seem to be a lot of prescience by the first goal. They are 1-2 when they get it, and all of those have been at home. So they have not gotten the first goal on the road. Maybe that'll change tonight. Let's change some things up. What do you say? When they do not get the first goal of the game, they are 3-5-1, 2-4 at home, and 1-1-1 away. 1-1-1. Can't get enough of that. Last year at this point, they were 5-8 in getting the first goal, so it's sounding very similar. which that would be prescient on the Preds getting the first goal tonight. Yeah, I like it. Overall, this season, overall last year, if the 5-8 getting the first goal, they were 3-2 when they got it, 2-0 at home when they got the first goal at home last year. In the first 13 games, they were 2-0 and 1-2 on the road. 2-4 when they did not, 1-3 at home and 1-3 away. So the similarity there is pretty interesting. I think I didn't note. I can look it up, but I should if I'm going to keep bringing this up and keep thinking I wanted to say it. Last year, when they were at home and they got the first goal, it was like a 3-1 advantage, and it was 2-1 or 1-2 for the opposition when they got it. So last season, it was very strong support that they were going to win the game at home anyway. Monday night, the game in L.A. was the first game of the year where the second period was a tie. So that has now ended. It was, the game Monday night. So we went in our Kings gear and we pulled for the Kings because we still love the Kings. Kopitar, what a goal. Oh my gosh. Behind the net, banking it off the back of the goaltender. He's a dangerous guy when he shoots. He doesn't shoot that often. But when he does, he's not fooling around. But yeah, his skill level there is it's not off the charts because they do chart this stuff, but not to be over dramatic, but very, very high skill level, one of the best in the league. And I guess he's, what we figured out, he's 37? Is he 37? Drew Doughty's 34. It seems so weird. We've been Kings. Well, my wife was a Kings fan before I met her. Even she saw Gretzky playing at the Forum, so she's been a Kings fan for a long time. I'm new to the Kings as of 1980, 1998, 1989. So doobie. Anyhow, it was bittersweet. Pulling for the Kings to win. Very excited when they scored. I guess it for me it was better. I guess that Nashville didn't play resoundingly well and keep it close, because then I didn't have any consternation at the end. I know the Preds need to win. The Preds need to get their act together. When what we used to do when Seattle would come to town is we would pull for the team who needed the game more, and it was usually Nashville in those circumstances. Now, the first game they played here, we were pulling for Seattle, but that was just the first game of the year, and Seattle won their first game here in Nashville with us in our Kraken gear. So the LA game the other night, my wife and I are now 3-0. And going to a game, and the team whose colors we're wearing wins. So we are 3-0. Hopefully, when they get back here and we'll start wearing Preds gear all the time, they'll, that streak will continue. Anyhow, so Monday was the first game of the year where there was a tie in the second period. Real quick. Winning, losing, tying a period, just looks at that period and says, okay, how many goals were scored in that period? And, if you score more, you win. If you score less, you lose. The winning goal overall on the road is 33% across all three periods. the Preds win. Well, I guess 33% in second, third, and overtime, 0 in the first. They only played 3 games, right? So when the Preds win, 100% of the time it's been in the third period. When the opponents win, 50% of the time it's in the second and OT. Again, 3 games does not make that very interesting. But what it does lead into is what happened last year. So I said, okay, let's go back to last year overall throughout the season when they're on the road. And overall, 41% of the time, the winning goal was scored in the second period, biased primarily because the opponents 65% of the time would get the winning goal in the second period. 65%. 0 in the first. If the Preds won 17% of the time, it was in the first. So the opponents on the road 0 times would score the winning goal in the first period. And the Preds' highest percentage was the third period at 42%. Second would be the second period at 25%. So that's significant. But 65% of the time last year, on the road, the opponents would get the winning goal in the second period. And it's only half the time. So they got, But again, it's only 2 games this year. So the Preds, I've been spending a lot more time. I had a time to just sit at my desk this morning. So I've been working on my special teams spreadsheet and decided that I really hate that I decided to do this. But anyhow, my numbers I'm having to get clarity again and again on this. I think these numbers are mostly right. The Preds have 9 power play goals to the opponent's 3. I think there are only 3 games where the Preds have not scored a power play goal. Maybe it's got to be 4 because I think they got 2 power play goals in 1 game. Oh, they've only played 12. That's right. They played 12 games. Yeah, right. So they got 2 power play goals in 1 game, and the opponents have gotten 3. Most special team games. So at this point, I had not started counting empty net or 6 and 5. I'm working on that. That's now being built into the spreadsheet. I was just a few minutes ago, considering how I was going to do the 6 and 5 situations, because you can't have 6 and 5, and you can have 6 and 4, and and they're empty nets, and so then I was trying to think if you would have an empty net situation with another. I guess you could have a 5-on-4. That's true. You could have a 5-on-4 empty net. I need to go back and account for that in my 5-on-4 situation. You can do 6 and 5, 6 and 4, 5 and 4. You wouldn't have 4-on-3. I guess you could. If for some reason there were, a couple of penalties that crossed each other out, and you got down to 3-on-3, because you can't in overtime. I think the rule is in overtime, if you pull your goaltender, you give up the 1 point. If you lose, you give up the 1 point that you would have gotten for an overtime loss. It just becomes just a regular loss, although it did happen in overtime. So that generally doesn't happen. In the playoffs, it's 5-on-5. So I don't know when you would necessarily. I guess if you had to win, like if it was the last game or one of the last couple of games, and you had to win them in order to get into the playoffs, maybe at that point in time you'd be desperate enough to pull your goaltender. But in general, I don't think in overtime you're going to get a 4-on-3 situation. Not with an empty net. If a penalty happens, it goes to a 4-on-3 and then could be 4-on-4. That's right. This is why my special teams spreadsheet is such a really bad idea. And I'm really glad I didn't decide to do it last season in the middle of the season, because I keep having to go back to all the games and revisit and make sure that I have accounted for these things correctly. I did find a really good website. I think it's called Shift Chart. shift chart. So I can go back and I can see when the goaltenders pull. It tells you what the shifts are. I decided once I found that, and then of course I found that, and then I started playing with it, and I started evaluating it, and then I'm like, okay. So I try to decide, if there was anything the Preds were necessarily doing in the second period that the other teams weren't, that were more successful for them in the second period. If those of you that are new to the show, one of the driving forces behind me starting this podcast was me doing research on the Preds being bad in the second period, especially at home. And it turns out that they were. This year, it's still hard to say. But like in the Dallas game, Dallas scored 4 goals in the second, and the Preds still seem to struggle in the second period. Not that they're not struggling in the first or third, so it's really it's hard to say. I did note that in the game against Dallas, their non-power play goals seemed to happen shortly after getting at least 3 new players on the ice. So 3 new guys would come on the ice, and then the Preds players would already be out there, and then there'd be a goal scored. So no real more insight than that, but I didn't see that in other games. But against Dallas, that seemed to be for at least 2 of them, 2 out of 4. I mean, it's not. But I didn't really pick up too much on whether the time. The shifts were excessively long in the second period for the Preds versus the opponents. Maybe they would benefit by shortening their shifts in the second period because they must not think they have a problem. They didn't last year. Obviously didn't think they had a problem because they continue to have a problem all season in the second period. But I don't know. Anyhow. How did we get here? Okay, yeah, special teams plays. So it looked like, I think these numbers are correct. In the first period, special teams, so the 5-on-4, 4-on-4, anything that's not 5-on-5. I'm not. Also looking at 5-on-5 when you got people on the bench, but 5-on-5 is not considered special teams because that's full thing. But 4-on-4, 4-on-3, 5-on-3, 5-on-4, those types of situations. 6-on-5, I guess, as well. But I don't really count empty nets yet. And these numbers don't include 6-on-5. I was just looking at that on my spreadsheet. Colorado did score a goal 6-on-5. They pulled their goaltender, and they were down, and they got a goal. And I think that's the only time that's happened so far this season for any team in the Preds games. The Preds did, I think, follow up with 2 empty netters after that, but not counting empty nets or 6-on-5 in the first. There have been 4 goals, 2 and 2. 2 for the Preds, 2 for the opponents. In the second, 7 and 6, so 13 goals on special teams. Not necessarily a power play, remember, because they can be 4-on-4 or 3-on-3, but 3-on-3 hasn't happened yet. It has happened in overtime, but not during the regular play. And then in the third period, 7-0. So in the special teams department, in the third period, the Preds have scored 7 goals, just like they did in the second, but the opponents have not. So I think that's a nice little marker there as well. The Preds special teams are just really good this year. It's just too bad. Maybe they should just somebody should trip somebody early and they can go into special teams mode. Just I don't know. Don't know what to do. Last year in November, they were 7-6, 5-3 at home, and 2-3 on the road. Anyhow, so that is the Preds, what the Preds are like on the road, and other things thrown in just because I can't help myself. Tonight's matchup, those of you listening may have forgotten what this podcast was about, but this podcast was to kind of bring you up to speed on the fact that we have a game tonight. Tonight in Nashville. No, tonight is not in Nashville. Tonight is the only game against Washington in Washington. So we will play Washington here in Nashville in mid-January. So that's right. We will only play Washington twice. Not really surprised there. That's just how they do it. And so the home game for Washington is tonight. Nashville will have their home game in mid-January. Last year, a nice little bonus. We played the Capitals twice and won both games. Both of those games were in December, 2 weeks apart. At home, mid-December, the Preds won 3-1, and in late December, 3-2 in a shootout. The Preds did get the first goal in both. The Preds won the first period in both games. They were 0-1-1 in the second. The tie was at home, so they lost the second period on the road. And the second period loss in Washington was the only period that the Preds lost to the Caps last year. So in 2 games, they only lost one period, the second period in Washington. I like all of that. I like the Preds getting the first goal. I would not mind it if the Preds only lost one period, and that would be the second. That would be good for tonight. Washington is starting a 2-game homestand. And so they don't have a record on this trip yet. They will be playing Pittsburgh on Friday. So that's their 2-game homestand. Tonight, Nashville comes to town, and then Friday, Pittsburgh will be there. They did lose their last game on the road to Carolina, and their last home game was a win Saturday over Columbus. The Preds are starting a 2-game road trip. We play Florida tomorrow night. I mentioned that a couple times already. The Preds did lose their last game home against the Kings, and they lost their last road game, Tampa Bay, last Monday, 2-3 in overtime. So that is your wrap-up on tonight's game. Logan Thompson will most likely be in goal. Guy Bean, I didn't put too much thought into this, but my feeling is that with Florida being the better team between Washington and Florida, that tonight we'll see Wedgwood. We'd see Wedgwood in goal tonight and Saros tomorrow night. I would not expect to see Saros in goal both games. Wedgwood I think he's only had one game so far this year. So he will most likely get the call tonight. No, he's played twice. He played against Columbus. I started the season in Dallas because Saros was injured. So tonight we will most likely see Wedgwood in goal for the Kings and Logan Thompson in goal for the Washington Capitals. And so that is tonight's game. Go Preds. Would like to see a win, like to see them get the first goal, like to see them win. I am not optimistic, I guess would be the thing. If they're going to pull a win out of tonight or tomorrow night, it would be tonight. Tomorrow night's game is going to be a lot harder for them to win. They do have good history against Washington. They have had, a day off, and hopefully they've spent that time and figured out how to play together again. It kind of comes and goes and comes and goes. The good thing about that is that once they get this figured out, once they get it figured out, somebody's going to get injured and they'll have to figure it out again. But once they get this figured out, they've got all the components to be winning and playing at a high level every night. So once they can get that figured out, and I think that's the fact that it's taking so long is a testament to how good it's going to be once they get it figured out, because some of these things are just a hair edge issue here and there. But I think that they've got people, they've got a good skill level on the team. They've got definitely players with a lot of drive, players that are starting to get really pissed at how they're playing, and so I think they're going to turn it around at some point. Tonight could be it. That would be something, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be something to come out of these 2 games with 2 wins against the Capitals and the Panthers, the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers? That would be awesome. Let's poop for that. Let's go for that. Why don't they just do that? Come on, guys. Just do that. Just win. Just win. So both these games are at 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock tonight at Washington. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Florida. I'll bring that analysis to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I am Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.